Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Carl and Rick Talk Risk. I'm going to get some light in here. We have sunlight in February in the Netherlands. Rick, see? Sometimes.
We have beautiful sunlight here in Halifax, Nova Scotia today. Absolutely
Lovely.
gorgeous day.
Hey, couldn't ask for better. Rick, I can tell you're in your Winter Olympics regalia there. Is that the Canadian colors?
Got my, I don't know if you can see it, got my Canada shirt on, ready to cheer, go, woohoo.
I couldn't see that.
Go,
I really
Canada,
took a stab in the... Nice. I took a stab in the dark. Okay, good. Rick, first of all, what's your favorite event at the Winter Olympics?
Well, I'm a Canadian. It's got to be hockey.
Hockey, okay. All right. Okay, well, okay. Okay, honestly, I've never watched the Winter Olympics, for full disclosure, but I have done a curling event with my team before. That was a lot of fun. I don't know, I just didn't expect it to be a great time, but it was a blast.
Curling's an awesome sport.
It is really fun.
An awesome sport.
Yeah, but it's just not, you see it without appreciating it, and you can easily say, well, that doesn't look like much fun at all. But try it out. It's actually really fun, and it's a nice team event because you don't need people who can sprint, or everybody gets to play a part. So it was very nice. Still have fun memories of it. Well, Rick, it is Winter Olympics, but we are still risk managers.
I think the two go hand in hand.
Do you? Okay.
Risk management and being an athlete are absolutely, there's a lot that athletics can learn from risk management, and there's a lot that risk management can learn from athletics. I think that they go perfectly hand in hand.
Okay. Well,
don't you?
I'm still taking it in. I haven't put the two together yet, to be honest.
Come on, you used to be a competitive golfer. Did you not learn anything from golf that you apply in risk management, or anything from risk management that you could apply to golf?
Absolutely, that's very true. I mean, golf's a very mental sport, and you're playing a golf course, not other people. And that is something I have taken through the rest of my life. So absolutely. But and in risk, of course, that's you have to be able to block out distractions and pressure and all kinds of stuff. And golf is helpful for that. How about ice hockey?
I think it goes much beyond that. First off, let's go back. And I realize I'm beating a dead horse, but hey, if you're watching this, you obviously like dead horses being beat. But if you go back to my definition of risk is the possibility that bad or good things may happen. And risk management is managing so as to increase the probability and magnitude of good things happening while decreasing the probability and severity of bad things happening. That is exactly what sports is. As an athlete, you are in an adversarial situation. Yes, you might be competing against a course, but ultimately you are competing against an opponent who's also competing against the course, and it's whoever competes against the course the best wins. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's much more direct, such as in a hockey match where you're trying to do A and the opposition is also trying to do A while preventing you from doing A, mainly scoring a goal. Mm-hmm. And so you have all sorts of VUCA, you have volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, complexity in all of its forms because you have complete adaptability. And sports is the ultimate VUCA arena. And I believe that risk management is the ultimate VUCA management field. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't you agree, or?
No, I do. I agree, and I do find a lot of ex-sports people make fantastic risk managers. But I think there's something in what you said. Probably in my own words, it's that you get on the rink and you're facing off against another team, and you have a strategy, right? You've considered, your opponent, you've watched videos about them, you have some ideas of their strengths and weaknesses, and you've got plays that you're going to run. I never played hockey. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a plan when
And
you get
yet
on the
you
ice.
spent how many years in Canada and you never
I know,
played hockey?
I know. I've
No
been on
wonder
an
you had to
ice.
run back to Holland.
I know, I know. As I tell people, I've been on an ice rink, but it was behind a little blue plastic elephant that was helping me stay upright. So anyway, but you get on the rink, you've got the opponent, the whistle blows, and I guess you drop the puck, right? And the game starts. You had a strategy. Now reality's hit it, right? As Mike Tyson
Oh,
says,
yeah.
everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the face. And because you've repeated your plays, you know little variations on it, which is something we speak about in the music arena, right? Being able to do little variations on a central theme. You don't have to go into panic mode, right? It's okay if your opponent goes left instead of right. That was in your handbook, because you have all that in the back of your mind, right? It's you've done it so many times. It's in your intuition. It's in the back of your mind, and now it's time to just react, right, to what your opponent's doing, how the puck is moving, all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't mean all your training was a waste of time. It was very helpful, but now you have to deal with reality. So there's something in there for risk managers in the markets, right? You can have a great thesis and so on, but the markets can drop 10% in a week, like they did for gold and other commodities last week. That happens.
The other thing, another lesson from sports. First off, I think that it's pretty well known in the financial markets anyway that athletes make great traders, by and
Mm-hmm.
large. Part of that is the pure competitiveness, but part of it is constantly being able to intuitively update upside and downside probabilities and payoffs,
Mm.
upside and downside, not necessarily in the mathematical sense, but in an intuitive sense, and also having a risk tolerance, because you don't get to the level of the Olympics unless you are also willing to fail massively.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't succeed at that level unless you're willing to come last. I tell my students that are going into case competitions, you have to decide up front. Would you prefer to finish solid third or fourth? Or if you want to win, you also have to be prepared to do things that might mean that you wind up last. So
Yeah.
if you really want to win, you also have to deal with the fact that you might wind up last. Because, take, skiing. Okay, if you want to win a ski race, you have to take um, chances of blowing out. If
Yeah.
you're skiing to get down the hill safely, you are not going to be on the podium.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the other thing is the adaptability. Okay, you talk about your practice gets in the modes, but you have to be prepared to change a losing game plan.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And you have to be prepared to change again and again and again until you find something that starts to work.
Yeah.
And again, it all comes back to VUCA. It all comes back to uncertainty. It all comes back to things happen that you simply cannot plan for.
Yeah. Yeah. And just
It's
because
risk management, albeit with the score being given to you in a much quicker sense.
yeah, yeah, which is I guess what a lot of sports people miss about sport is sometimes you don't know the score in risk management. Um, but just because you acknowledge that you could come last because you're taking enough risk to potentially win, doesn't mean you don't do anything about that, right? It doesn't mean you don't
Yeah.
address how things could go terribly wrong, right? Because that's what you say, the increasing the chance of things going right, reducing the chance of things going wrong. But you have to think about that up front, right? It's you know, not pretend that nothing will go wrong, and then you play very safe, and as you say, you barely leave the ice on the way down. So,
But also, athletes are perfect Bayesians because they learn from their mistakes. They're constantly updating their probabilities. They're constantly updating their outcomes. They're perfect Bayesians, and I think that in risk management, too often, we throw around Bayesian statistics, but we never update them. Good God, I'll pick on the credit world for a moment. Most of our data from the credit world is still stuck, in 1980, and the
yeah,
credit world is dramatically different. But yet, still, we're basing our models off of this old crusty data that has absolutely no relevance for today's world.
yeah, yeah. Rick, what do you think the lesson is for risk managers from athletes in terms of you face a new opponent that you've never had you don't have a strategy for. You suddenly you're out of your league. In sports, I mean you uh, uh, yeah. How do risk managers change it up? How do they deal with a complete sea change, which is kind of what we're going through at the moment. Regulation is in flux, markets are in flux, our models are old. Um,
Well, one of the ways is, and you mentioned it earlier, is a lot of sports is mental. Okay.
mm,
And I firmly believe that. I also believe that a lot of really good business management and risk management, for that matter, is mental as well. Although in risk management, it's much more on the social level, um, uh, rather than on the personal level. Although I think that the personal level can affect the social level of we talked about risk culture and risk attitude and risk tolerances before.
yeah,
But when you're watching sports, do a little exercise and say, as a risk manager, what would I do now?
mm,
Um, think about curling. Okay. Curling is all about probabilities and whether you can make that shot or not. And there's
yeah,
always 4 shots that you can do. There's one that that you can make, all the way up to there was one that you think on your very, very, very best day of curling you might be able to make.
mm,
And they all have different outcomes
mm,
and different probabilities of helping you to do well in that end. And so when you're watching sports, think like a risk manager and say, as a risk manager, what would I do as the athlete? How would I adapt?
mm,
How would I assess the probabilities? Now, of course, we've also got the Super Bowl starting, so I don't want to get into probabilities and betting because that's just become farcical and anything but risk management. That just borders on drunken stupidity.
yeah,
What's going on the wagering and the probability assessment there. But the Olympics, I think it's a good thing.
yeah.
But also, my number one advice for risk managers is enjoy watching the bloody Olympics. Have fun. Enjoy. Sit back. Enjoy a fine cup of tea and cheer for your country.
Yeah. Well said. Um, uh, I would guess that a lot of people look at ex-athletes in the workplace and think, well, you must be reckless. You must be, you know, um, yeah. I would assume they,
No,
um,
no, 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 because every athlete who's reached the top has also reached the bottom, and they
yeah,
know the excruciating pain of reaching the bottom, both physical
yeah,
pain and mental pain. And so
yeah,
they're way more acutely aware of downside risk than the vast majority of risk managers, professional managers that I've met in my life.
yeah. No, well said. And that's the point I was going to is notice the risk management strategies that athletes are employing. Notice that they're not curling, playing ice hockey at the very edge of their abilities all the time. They are making what you talked about, the 4 different types of shots. They're figuring out which one is the best in this situation. They're doing all of this stuff below the surface, and if you pay close enough attention, you'll start to pick up on it. So, all right,
The
Rick.
thing is it's intuitive. It's not conscious. It's
Yeah.
intuitive, which
Yeah.
just think of more risk managers could be intuitive rather than following their rubric of metrics.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Yeah.
let's leave it there.
Exactly. Enjoy the Olympics.
Canada, go.
Yeah, go Canada. Yeah, let's see some gold medals coming home. So that'll be good to see. Yeah, enjoy it. Cheers, everybody.
Have fun.